take this office here in a couple months, but Dickie Bird, 42-year Virginia State Police, and he started his career with the Henry County Sheriff's Office, but 42-year law enforcement veteran. Marshall Thomas, 33-year police captain, criminal and vice investigation experience. And lastly, it's going to be TJ Tommy Slaughter Jr. And myself and TJ, we worked together with Henry County several years back. And before TJ left us, he went to, he's now currently with the Martinsville City Public Schools as Director of Public School Safety and Security. Again, I thank everyone for coming out today. And my team and I, we talked about this. We were ready for any and all debates. There's a lot of issues, reasons why we're all running and stepping forward is what's going on or not going on with the Sheriff's Office and what's going on in our community. And I didn't call this out just to have a campaign speech going on. This is going to be more focused on what I couldn't bring up in the one-man debate. It's hard to debate when you're just one man showing up. But I brought up one part of the budget and our platform early on, and it's always been the same: safer schools, community commitment. We got a lot of community programs that we're going to implement for the community, and a stronger leadership or administration. And as you can see, I've got a lot of men, and good men, and with the experience and the background and the resources that they bring, I'm blessed to have them beside me, and I think the community is going to feel just as blessed too once we get working. And lastly is wasteful spending, and that's what I call this press conference today for. It's hard for me to bring up. I brought up one issue last week, but again, we've reached out and we've asked for debates, live debates. I want to get as many as I could, and I had 2 chances with open forums. And the debate is totally different. An open forum, a public forum, like the Chamber of Commerce did, we knew the questions up front. We could prepare for them. I had 3 hours to prepare for a 3 to 4 minute response. And I cannot do that. That's not even fair to the process. It's the electoral process, and it's fair for the public to get answers. And don't just take it for my word when I tell you something. Back it up. Put me on a hot plate. Back up what you're saying, what you're telling us. I don't care if it's with the stats. If a man tells you, stand before you, we've got over 1,000 drug arrests this term, and he's talking about 4 years. Don't take a man at his word. Back it up with numbers. Back it up with documentation. That, unfortunately, is what I'm having to do with this, is work this like a criminal case. And that's what I've done. So early on, when I said my staff and I are going to put school resource officers in every Henry County school, we looked at the budget. I know myself, I was a division lieutenant before I retired from Henry County back in October 2017. I know there's wasted manpower within that department, and it can be some restructuring. These men right here, we've got ideas that we're going to be able to bring from day one. Once we take office, within the first 30 days, half of the Henry County schools that's not have a school resource officer in it will have a school resource officer in those schools, leaving me with about 4 schools that I'm going to have to come up out of the budget. So what I did early on was I pulled the numbers from the budget, and then I asked questions. When I was a division lieutenant, procedures were changed several years back. Each division commander, we had our own budgets. And I'm telling you this just so you can get an education on how your office, this is your office. This is not mine. This won't be ours. This is taxpayers. We've worked for you. This is your building. This is your salary. This is your budget that we're spending, that you entrust us with. So I had to, several years back, procedures were changed inside the office. The number 2 man who takes care of the budget, his name is Steve Eanes. He takes care of all the budget. Everything goes through him. It used to be each division lieutenant or commander had a certain amount of budget, and you not with your personnel. Personnel was always handled through the sheriff's office. But I'm talking about like equipment. I knew equipment I needed for the fiscal year coming up, and I would put in for a budget, how much it was, do the research and all that. So several years back, that was taken away from us and it was left up to one man. The fiscal year, and so you can understand what I'm talking about when I'm referring to fiscal years, is but again, it's July 1st to June 30th. We all get the sheriff's office, every department in Henry County gets a budget. Sheriff's office got their own budget that oversees everything. Now, I called the deputy county administrator and spoke to Dale Wagner. And I've seen some red flags that was brought up in the debate. There was 4 names on that salary list. And I know, because I worked there, that those 4 men and one lady, 3 men and 1 lady were no longer working there. Not part-time, not any time. But it was 4 salaries that was brought out all the way to the penny, totaled up to a little bit over $193,000. I brought that up last week during the debate, the one-man debate. A couple days, in the meantime, a couple days later, the incumbent watches the debate, and then he's got answers that he's giving you to explain that. That's fine. That's all I want. We could address this one issue right there if he wasn't scared or whatever the reason, but he's cheating the voters out of going through a process of a debate. We could have solved that right there, but that's not the only issue I had. So I don't take a man at his word. I called and talked to Dale Wagner, who's the deputy county administrator, and he did confirm. He said, John, it's probably a glitch in our system. We use Munis, which is a software system that takes care of the software, personnel. And it gives out salaries, and those names probably has been in there for several years and just never has been removed. Well, that just validates that I've done my homework, that I saw an issue, I addressed that issue, it was answered. Makes sense to me, okay, but it was a glitch. It wasn't something I just pulled up out of the air and say, hey, this is wrong and it's corruption, let's get an investigation going on. In my platform, everything I've always said was, I've never said there's illegal activity that I know of. If it was, I would have already been filed a complaint with the state police or the Attorney General's office. This team right here that you see, we know what to do on our job. We know what to do once we get in office. My platform is wasteful spending, your taxpayers' dollars. My issue is I'm not worrying about equipment. I call them toys, he calls them equipment. I'm not worried about that. I'm worrying about the safety and security of our community. And my number 1 priority is the drugs and our kids in those schools, which is role modeling those kids with school resource officers to go pay dividend later on with the drugs. So it all plays hand in hand. So I'm looking for the funds on how to do this. What I looked at was that budget. I thought I had it on $193,000. So I asked Dale, I said, where's this $193,000 going then? His answer, the way the county works, and this is common practice, but it surprised me. If it's a $10.8 million budget, the sheriff can do whatever he wants to with that budget. He can pay personnel. The comp board reimburses the county for a certain amount of personnel. So we got right now 119 deputies, sworn deputies. The comp board is going to look at how many inmates we have in custody with the population, and they're going to say we're going to supply this many deputies and employ that many, and we're going to reimburse their salaries. The county is going to say we're going to put more deputies on the streets and some in the schools, and they're going to provide, the county taxpayers is going to provide that money. But all in all, your budget, that $10 million falls off of one man, and he's responsible for it. So with that said, what I'm telling you is, once we get in office, I will not waste your money. My main concern is getting those school resource officers in it. It's not just mine, it's what we've heard the community ask for. A lot of people here today has begged for that, and they plead. I want my kids, I want to know when they get on the bus in the morning that I'm going to get them off the bus in the evening. These are not scare tactics. These are proactive measures that we're looking ahead. Also to help us out with the role modeling later on down, because by the time they hit middle school and high school, it's too late. We need to get them while they're young and be a positive role model. You're seeing a lot of that stuff going on right now on social media. We're spending time with them in the schools. That's what we want to do on a daily basis. But to get why we're here today, the budget, it was addressed last week about 2 sniper rifles. Those are military grade weapons. I was a sniper for this agency, senior sniper for 10 years, other than the current sheriff. He had a few more years over me with experience at the local department. But I used my military experience with my law enforcement. After I retired, I went to the Department of State and worked for the federal government in Afghanistan as a sniper. I used the exact same weapon that I used here for 10 years, a bolt-action Remington Model 700. I say this just to educate you that gun, I can get it fully brand new, fully equipped with good, solid scopes on it, whatever I need to do the job for about $5,000. This department, after the last election, I was in the room when it was picked. The second in command said, told the captain, he's a current captain, said, I want you to look at some sniper rifles. I want you to pick the sniper rifle that you would love to have with all the equipment, all the bells and whistles. And while you're at it, get 2, one for you and one for the sheriff. That's what they did. And they got the ones that I mentioned before. 2 338 Lapuas. I will spell that, L-A-U-P-A, Magnum rifles. What those are for the people that's not a gun person. And believe me, I'm not a gun person either. I had to do a little research myself. I can shoot them, but I don't know much about them other than aim and pull the trigger. These weapons are used by the special forces on special missions. They will shoot 2 miles. The current sheriff and that captain, on taxpayers' dollars, went to a week's training in Las Vegas to learn how to shoot these weapons for 2 miles. Wasteful spending on those 2 weapons. He's got a reason why. He gave a reason. It's for the taxpayers. It's for the voters to look at everything. Don't just take a man because he's in uniform. He's standing up there. He's been there for 13 years, and he talks nice. You've seen him in church. You've seen him out in the public, and he smiled and shook your hand. Do not trust anybody. In this line of work, and my partners here will vouch for you, I question everybody. I don't care what you're wearing or what you got carrying on you. I'm going to question and I'm going to look at, because I got a mind for myself. So those weapons, altogether, those 2 weapons cost $32,000. That's with the training that the taxpayers paid for. The 2 weapons itself cost a little over $27,000. Now they were paid with asset forfeiture money. But again, that's money that we could be spending on other equipment. We ran out of patrol cars last spring before the fiscal year was up because we didn't have the money they didn't have the money in the budget to have patrol cars, so our new people that just graduated from the police academy could get out here and keep our streets safe. Wasteful spending, misuse of management of the money, and you've got people that's riding around here doubled up in cars because we don't have the equipment for them. If they'd used the money wisely, get new weapons, they could have used that for other equipment, and then with everything else that the budget's has to offer, we can hire more SROs. I can get half the schools just by restructuring. The other part I'm going to be able to get from the budget. I've looked at it. I've seen it. I know we can do it without cutting out the wasteful spending. There won't be no more military-grade weapons. Now, I told you there's one man that takes care of that budget. Within the last election within 15. He's given himself 1 year, and that was between July 2017 and February 2018. Within that 7-month period, the number 2 man, he gave himself almost a $7,000 raise out of the budget. There's nothing illegal about that, because the county, that's just the way it is. You can do whatever you want to with the budget. When a man gives his own self a raise, and no one else in the department got that much of a raise. They got a state raise, which was about 2%. He got almost a 7% raise. He's did it twice throughout since the last election. So since the last election, 2015, 4 years later, $15,000 raise. That's a concern to me. As office, once we take office, I would tell you, I will not give myself or any of my partners here, because I know how their hearts are, a raise that does not come from the state. If it's whatever the state says after the fiscal year, the General Assembly approves a 2% raise, then that's what we get. If we don't get a raise, then we don't get a raise. If I can't give it to every man and woman in that office that's putting their lives on the line each and every day out here, if I can't give it to every one of them, then we all don't get it. Nobody gets it. What I will do is put that money into hiring more people to get them back on these streets. Once I get the schools manned, then we'll look at getting more people on the streets. Okay? So, the armored vehicle that became an issue last time. I'm still looking into this. I'm waiting on the paperwork, but just last week I was informed, and I'm giving this out to the media to do a little bit more investigating if you want to on it. But it came an issue as a $250,000 vehicle, military grade vehicle, only one in this region. Once it was, you have to special order those vehicles. Once it was ordered, there was a grant that was applied for that fell through. Taxpayers, I'm wondering, and I don't have the man here standing beside me, and I didn't have him last week, I'm wondering where's the grant that fell through on that, my understanding it fell through, what paid for the rest of that $250,000? Was it taxpayers' money? Was it more asset forfeiture money? I don't know what it was, but either way, grant money is ultimately taxpayers' money too. Grant money is not free money to just spend how you want to, and asset forfeiture isn't either. There was 5 more sniper rifles, and these are rapid shooting sniper rifles. It's what we used in Afghanistan when I was there. It would shoot 308s rapidly. It's when you're fighting the Taliban or the ISIS, and you've got a lot of them, and you got to make good, precise shots rapidly at more than one. They bought 5 of those. Taxpayers' money paid for that. Not asset forfeiture, not a grant. Taxpayers' money paid $37,000 for those rifles. That's $37,000 that I can do whatever I want to. According to the county administrator, I could have took $25,000. I could have got brand new rifles with all the equipment, and that's not even equipment. That's just the rifles, and got brand new rifles and used the rest of it to hire a school resource officer to put in the schools. Wasteful spending. There's a lot that I would love to be able to bring out, and I appreciate everyone's time for coming out today. But the issues that we have, and I'm going to take questions soon as I close up here. The questions I have is, you've got one chance. In 4 days, we may not be able to tomorrow. I can't promise that I can pull this team together with all this experience and knowledge. The drug experience that this man can bring to the table, criminal experience. He's going to be taking care of the short case. We've already got plans on taking care of that, putting a new set of eyes, and forming a community task force with it to get that opened up with other cases, with what Dickie Bird can bring to the table, with the resources, the federal government. He can pull in people that we can ask. When we ask for, we need some help to meet, if it's just monthly, to meet with on the Jennifer Short task force monthly to guide our department. He can help us with that. This man right here, he's going to be able to help me with the budget and getting people in, with the grants and getting those school resource officers and keeping it running once we're in there. We're acting proactively, putting things in there before they happen, working on problems that's important to our community, and there will not be any more wasteful spending. Not to butter my salary or any man up under me. If I can't, and this is another thing, and I almost forgot. At the end of the fiscal year, they don't want to turn any extra money in. They want to spend all the monies because they're afraid that the county will cut the budget. So they will spend every dollar. Every now and then they turn a little bit in, but they will go through and hand pick certain ones. They did it just this past spring. Hand pick certain ones and give them extra bonuses. It's kind of like a morale booster. When your morale's down inside, throw a couple $1,000s out of the budget. That will not happen anymore. If you don't get it from the state on the state budget, like all of us, then it won't happen. I would use, if there's any extra money, I'm going to employ more deputies. And it all depends on where the budget comes from. Yes, sir. Now I'm ready for questions, or we can all do privately after.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Where did the $200,000 go?
I have not found out yet. Mr. Wagner wasn't able to tell me. He just said somewhere in the budget.
You say there's a missing $200,000?
No, I'm saying it's in the budget. I just don't know. It might have been for the extra salaries. It could have been for extra salaries. It could have went to other part-time deputies that's not listed.